Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to my Sunday gaming video series. Today we're going to tackle Dungeons and Dragons Online. It's not going to be a long video. It's not a lot of information out there about it, to be honest. I beta tested this game and I probably shouldn't have bought the retail, to be honest. But some friends that didn't beta test really wanted to try it because, well, it was Dungeons and Dragons. And I kept telling them, like, it's not what you're hoping for, but they wanted to give it a try. So, like I said, this is not going to be a long video for this week. I don't have a whole bunch of good to say about this game. And the truth is, I lasted 2 months into retail. So I'm just going to go over my experience and give you what I remember. And I'll read a little bit from the Wikipedia that is, even that's really lacking in information. Like, you know, usually you have to scroll down. Wikipedia on this is like 1 page and that's it. So yeah, I am a big D&D fan. Or I used to be. I'm playing it again. Not really as enamored with it now as I was back in 2nd edition. I have no qualm saying, to me, D&D climaxed at 2nd edition, AD&D. And it's been downhill after that. And, you know, I play it as a social event to have fun with people I know and laugh. And we laugh and everything like that. And you know, and I appreciate the DM putting in the work. You know, I've done that myself on Fallout, and it's not fun, especially when you have some people that are intentionally trying to undermine what you've created. But, you know, so I appreciate her putting in the work, but I don't think the modern day D&D is very good, if I'm being brutally honest. It's too much God mode, not enough thinking, for lack of a better term. So yeah. So anyway, I played the D&D online beta and then I bought the retail and I played about 2 months of retail. And at the end of the 2 months, I had done everything that was shipped in that box. Every damn thing. And if you can complete any MMO in 2 months, that is a poor MMO. So what was DDO? DDO was a attempt at going overboard to the extreme on rails. And what I mean by that is there was no world. There was this city you started in. And you were confined to the dock area and you'd run a few dungeons. And once you did that, then it would open up to the rest of the city and you could go in through the gate and into the rest of the city. And the city was literally just a hub to buy stuff, sell stuff, and to click on the locations for the rails to fast track you to the dungeon. And that's all it was. One thing I've told people is I remember in DDO where I'd go into there was like you'd come in and there was like 3 sections of the city. This big center part and then one offshoot here and one offshoot here. And I'd go to this offshoot and you could get on top of the roofs of the huts there, and you'd stand there and you could see over the wall, and it had this massive expansive forest. And I remember playing going, I want to explore that, but you couldn't get out of the city other than to click on a dungeon and get fast tracked to the dungeon. You'd finish the dungeon and it'd fast track you back to the city. And that's all D&D was. So first, right off the bat, role play, immersion, that was completely out the window. It didn't exist in the game. It was strictly a combat DDO or MMO. I won't even call it an RPG. There was no role playing. It was a massively multiplayer online game. But unlike SWG, which I called the same, SWG had planets to explore. This, you had a city and you had dungeons. Now, one of the first things that really pissed me off in this game, like absolutely made me livid, is all the dungeons were black. So if you were stupid enough to roll up a human, you were blind. You were absolutely blind. Even if you had a torch, You could just see a few feet in front of you, and that was it. So I always thought that was just a horrible design. I'm hopefully they've changed it by now, because it's a free-to-play game and it's had some expansions. I never played any of the expansions. I can't talk on them. I can't talk about any of the changes to the game. I played 2 months into retail and left. And that's all I can talk about. But yeah, so right off the bat, it was like, you go in, you're blind, you take a step, you hit a trap that you couldn't see, and you were dead. Wow, doesn't that sound like fun? Yeah, it was a horribly designed game. And as I said, within 2 months, I had completed every single dungeon, killed the dragon, which was the big Uber boss, and there was nothing left to do in that game. I guess I could have waited around a couple of years for an expansion, but no, I moved on. And yeah, that was DDO. So what does Wiki have to say about this? So this is from Wikipedia. Dungeons and Dragons Online is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, MMORPG developed by Turbine for Microsoft Windows and OS X. The game was originally marketed as Dungeons and Dragons Online Stormreach. Upon switching to a hybrid free-to-play model, which I was never around for, it was renamed Dungeons and Dragons Online Eberron Unlimited. The game was rebranded Dungeons and Dragons Online with the introduction of Forgotten Realms related content. Turbine developed Dungeons and Dragons Online as an online adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, originally based loosely on the DDO 3.0 rule set. This game is set in the unexplored continent of Zendrick within the Eberron campaign setting, and in the Kingdom of Cormor within the Forgotten Realms campaign setting. Gameplay quests are narrated by a dungeon master, and some of the early voice-over work was done by Dungeons and Dragons co-creator Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. Development. Dungeons and Dragons Online Stormreach was developed by Turbine over 2 years. The initial prototype and concept were created by Jason Booth, and a bunch of names, who cares, Wizards of the Coast. Gary Gygax provided some narration before his death. Release. After testing was complete, a special Head Start event began February 24th for those who pre-ordered. With the game opening, I didn't pre-order because I had no intention of playing this game into retail until some guildmates, they didn't beta test, so they wanted to try it, and they had to drag me in kicking and screaming. We're open to the public February 28th. February 28th, 2008. As of April 2008, there were less than 100,000 subscribers for the game. In June 2009, Dungeons & Dragons reopened beta testing in preparation for their new free-to-play subscription structure. This game was an absolute disaster as a subscription game because it had no content. Again, 2 months, done, boom. And I was working 2 jobs at the time. So it wasn't like I was playing 24 hours a day. And I still cleared out everything they had. The free-to-play business model was introduced with the Eberron Unlimited upgrade in the summer of 2009. After the game went free-to-play, the company said subscriptions increased 40% by October 13th of the same year. Some company noted pros and cons from a player's perspective with the change. A beta of the OS X version was released December 17th, 2012. In 2025, the game will open new 64-bit servers and offer free migration for players from the old 32-bit servers. And the final bit from Wiki, like I said, there's not a lot of information here. By June 2009, Dungeons & Dragons Online was converted to a subscriptionless, free-to-play game for players in North America under the new name Dungeons & Dragons Online Eberron Unlimited. The level cap was increased to level 20, and free users had access to the majority of the game content. Some features have to be purchased with Dungeons & Dragons Online points or unlocked through play. There is a VIP access with additional features available. So typical, they put a lot of the stuff behind a paywall is what they did. Closed beta registrations opened June 9th. The game and contents were free to download September 1st for VIP members and September 9th for the general American public. By December 2016, Turbine was no longer developing the game, and a new studio was formed under the name Standing Stone Games, the staff of whom would be ex-Turbine. The publishing of the game was transferred from Warner Brothers Interactive to Daybreak Game Company. While a reason was not given for the transition, it was assured that the game would continue in new development. And there's been some expansions. Apparently, Turbine filed a lawsuit against Atari claiming a breach of license agreement for Dungeons & Dragons. And that's it. That's all Wiki had. Like I said, even the Wiki is pretty non-existent for this game. So it was your basic Dungeons & Dragons. Like, I'll give them credit to that. You rolled up your cleric or your fighter or your paladin or, whatever. And you got a group together, or you did looking for group and you got the group together, and then you clicked on the stupid little icon and it ran you on a rail. Like, you didn't see the travel. It was just boom, from here to here. And you're at the start of that adventure. You go through what was basically a module, not a big module like the Ravenloft. We're talking like it would be like a dungeon. You'd go into a dungeon. You'd clear the dungeon, kill the baddie, leave, it'd shoot you back to town. And that was it. It was very basic, I guess would be the best way to put it. It was a very basic game. And yeah, I traveled around with a bunch of hardcore MMORPG players for the 1990s and the early 2000s, and none of them stuck with this game. Not a one. Everybody moved on. It was one of those games. It was, honestly, now that I'm talking about it, I should have probably put it in as one of the games in my first video where I just went over games that really made no impression on me, because this game made no impression on me. Other than to prove to me that you need the world. Like, that was the biggest thing I took from this game, is you need the world to adventure in. Explore, adventure, find. It got so old so fast, just boop to a dungeon, run through the dungeon, boop, back to town. And that was it. And, your magic items, typical D&D. Think of D&D without roleplay, and that's what DDO was. It was Dungeons & Dragons without any roleplay whatsoever. And yeah, and even the final boss was like, it was disappointing. I went on the raid, because it was a raid boss. It wasn't a small group boss. And, you get up there and you kill the dragon, and there's a chest, and you open the chest, and like 3 characters out of 24 get a prize. And the rest of you are SOL. And it's like, why did I do that? Like, where's my loot? No, I helped kill the dragon. Why am I not getting loot? So, yeah, it was, I don't know. I don't want to keep saying it. It just wasn't a good MMORPG. So anyway, like I said, this is going to be a very short video. I went looking online for pictures. I couldn't even find screenshots that really wowed me. So anyway, that's my video for today. Short and sweet. That was DDO. It's still around. If you want to go try it, give it a try. It's free to play. So it's not going to cost you anything unless you want to pay for some of the stuff behind the free paywall. And again, I haven't seen any of the expansions. So maybe this game is actually improved. I can't speak on that. I can only speak on my experience of the first 2 months. And so maybe the game has improved. Maybe they fixed a lot of the shortcomings. It's possible. I don't think it's likely, but it's possible. But yeah, so you can look it up, Dungeons and Dragons Online, or DDO for short, and yeah, if you're really interested in it, give it a try. I personally, if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons, there's much better fantasy games out there than DDO ever was. One that comes to mind most recently is Baldur's Gate 3. It's a single player game, but it got rave reviews. People loved it. So, I would suggest that over DDO, but if you're really interested, give DDO a try. It's not going to cost you anything. So no harm, no foul. Anyway, that's my video for today. If you like the video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Always feel free to leave a comment. If you played DDO in the early days and you disagree with me, come into the comments, tell me why you disagree. If you're playing it after my experience and you want to tell me how it's changed and how it's improved, please come in the comments and tell me. Also, leaving a comment really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.